Hello, welcome to the Universe Inside Our Mind. I'm Dr. David Jubb. We have a fabulous show today. It's all about getting along. Have you been getting along with the people that you love, the people that's in your life? You getting along with the people that you're working with? This is a show for you. It's all about getting along. Very interesting that everything that we perceive on the outside is made up on the inside of ourselves. So that might be nice to keep in memory as we go through this show today, and that's wonderful to ever be aware of this in life, that everything, certainly when somebody's going dot, 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 dot inside, that is very much illusion, and even sensing things you'll become aware is illusion, because everything that we perceive is made up inside our brain. We have a set of rules which can cause me to interpret the world a certain way, and this is called a paradigm. And so somebody can have been operating from an old paradigm and then might less than have ease of ability to see the new paradigm. The old paradigm can have created a paradigm paralysis. It's amazing that we have this quartz watch in the background here, because there's a great story about paradigms. It was this very bright person who invented the quartz watch, who came before the Swiss company with this invention and showed their superiors this invention. Of course, their superiors said, "Oh my God, this doesn't have any springs, this doesn't have any levers, this doesn't have any cogs, what is this?" And the person said, "My God, this can keep time 1,000% more accurately than anything you produced up to this point." But because it didn't have a lever, didn't have a spring, didn't have cogs, didn't fit the paradigm of the old Swiss watchmakers, and they said, poof. They said, you know, this is not a watch. They didn't even care to protect the patent at all. And they said, go ahead and put it in the trade show. They had this very bright person put in the trade show. That very bright person sat behind a desk at the trade show. Texas Instruments of Japan. Texas Instruments walked past that table. Seiko of Japan walked past that table. Within 3 years, the Swiss, which were the #1 watchmakers in the world, became #3. They had to sack half of their workforce. As a new paradigm comes to be, it sets the old paradigm back to zero. It doesn't matter what you knew of the past, it's set back to zero. So it might be interesting to ever be aware that we make up most everything, you know, inside quite a bit, and that might be wonderful awareness to have the insight of, and that's that things that are made up on the inside, much more so than what you might have ever thought. When someone has gone rat, and they've described something out here, that I've described something out here, it might be wise for me to ever be aware that this is something on the inside of me that I'm describing. When I hear somebody describing something that's occurring on the outside, I might be aware that this is this person's inside, and they're describing something that's made up from within them, and that anything that's said, words are illusion, and that words only can possibly be a reflection. It could be an accurate reflection of reality, but to the degree to which it is a reflection, it is not reality. So Annie and I call in whole brain functioning a platform teaching that we would reach before getting to the mount in whole brain functioning, and we call this teaching living in unconditional being. Unconditional being is where I've arrested all behaviour that is to do with me wishing someone else to change. But I'll bet, how many times have you had behaviour where you wish somebody else to change? You wish something else would change out there. But this thought is illusion, and it's a cause and effect violation, because it's not possible for me to wish for somebody else to change. I don't have the power to be the person who's drawing the strings that is in this person. That's irrational for me to want something for this other person. But whenever I have wanted something for somebody else, and I participated in some behaviour that was about wanting something for somebody else, you know, for the most part, most people have to wash their energy field afterward. They have to go out and have a good meal, they've got to go to the movies, go for a jog, maybe they've got to listen to some music, read a book, got to go do something, visit a friend, something, and we might be doing many things, matter of fact, to wash our energy field, because I was living in projection where I was wishing somebody else to change. So we have these 7 levels of learning in whole brain functioning, and this 4th level, which if you've watched previous shows, is all about no longer externalizing anything. The meaning of this is that we're finally ever aware that I am internalizing everything, and I may as well have a focus on what I can do myself rather than what you can do. Let me have a focus on what I can do. That makes a really great way to have relationship. So that's so important, that I have the ability to be able to pace people listening, the intelligence of people listening. That is very important. To be empowering, because many times over someone can have language things and it causes people less than to feel empowered themselves. It can have perfectly taken power away from them. The presupposition can be that the person is powerless, or the person really doesn't have the gumption to make a move on some situation. Presuppositions are all statements which are true if what's said is true, which a presupposition is unsaid. It's an unsaid statement. So if I said the window is broken, the presupposition there is that somebody must have broken the window. So that's a presupposition. So if I said the window is broken, presupposition is possibly that somebody broke the window, which is unspoken. Presupposition of, I wonder what kind of change can occur today for you. There's several presuppositions. First of all, maybe more than one piece of change can occur today, and also that you're empowered to make these changes and that we'll work together. They're the presuppositions there. If I'd said, how can I help you? The presupposition is there, you need help, I'm going to help you. And that can have been a disempowering way of having communicated. We should do what we can to pace the other person's equalness. We should do what we can to cause the other to have a feeling of equality and create egalitarianism. So I do what I can to get down to the other person's height as I can. I am from aware, let me use the same sort of voice quality as I can. Let me frame things positively as I can. Let me be ever mindful that I'm communicating to myself. And this is me. So how would I want myself to communicate to me? I mean, we should ever be aware this is me there, and that we ever are wishing to make sure that our language really is an empowerment rather than a disempowerment. So, you know, somebody could tell me that I live in New York, and they could tell me that I do lectures around the country and things, but for the most, what I know right here is that I'm in the presence of God, and that everything else that somebody could tell me is made up. That all I'm aware of is that I'm in the presence of God, and this is me. So if we can have an attitude more where we're focused, oh my God, this is me, and how can I communicate to me, then it's more likely that we can be practicing this question that was posed, I wonder how I keep self company, because it all really is to do with how I keep company. How I keep myself company is how I keep company. So the more that it's possible to be me to be supportive in my languaging, in my being, to be more a supportive person, to be more allowing, to be more forgiving, to be soft, to be kind, to be gentle, to be living without demand. Things have to happen in relationship more through grace and not through temporal import. Need to focus on accessing the other person's intuitiveness and presupposing one's intuitiveness. That's so wonderful that we can communicate in a way that causes the listener to have choice, and that you can say, I wonder if, possibly we can, maybe you could, this is interesting, I wonder that you might consider, and we can frame things in a way with modal operators of possibility that allow the listener choice, because we love it when people can give us choice. We love it that somebody can be decisive and not pussyfoot, not be a flip-flopper. If we say you're going to go and do something, that we have the ability to be able to do this, because this is somebody who can predict the future. A person who's saying they're going to go do something but then they don't end up doing it is someone who's not really predicting the future very well. So we should be without demands, and it's amazing that when we ask older people who are close to the end of their life, what would they do if they had it all over to do again? Many people say they say they would do much more than they have, or they did. They would go and do more things than they did. Most people say this, and then most people say they would be more allowing than they were. And that many of us, when we're asked, in the later stages of our life, if we'd have this all over to do again, many people do say that they would be much more allowing. To be more of an allowing person, not to be as demanding. To ever be aware that things happen more through grace and not so much through temporal import. To clear away the idea that something has to be fixed. To clear away the idea that something has to be said. To develop patterns of ways of communicating to each other, that you have a smile, you have just a way of nodding or being or some behaviour which causes the other person to feel resourceful in themselves. So you have a little anchor which causes the person right across the room when you do this or you do some motion, the other person is aware you're connecting with them and they feel a sense of love coming from you. So now, some of these things I might share a little bit, might seem a bit strange, like we're taught that we love other people and I love her or I love him or I love this, and there's something else to be on the outside to love, and that we should be completely loving without anything having to be present. And this is loving self. It is projection that I can say that I love you. That's projection. I can't send energy to somebody, that's projection. I can't really love somebody, that's projection. We could be going around chasing love. Thank God I'm not chasing love. Thank God I'm not seeking approval. And thank God that I can be aware simply of more of an emptiness inside, and that if love was to be expressed in some way, then I might say it's a vacuum, and that inside this vacuum there's this fluctuation of energy, that's this residuum vibration, which is a very, very fine energy. And as we feel this, we can feel an orgastic, rapturous nature, which is our true self. The mind and thought can have been dampening these feelings that we have inside, which you can feel more when you've been in an older state, or you remember being in an older state. You may remember feeling this orgastic, rapturous nature. This is our natural state. The mind can have suppressed a lot of this, and if it's a feel-good kind of a thing, then it's possible that it could be banned. So we're much more equal to each other than we are different. We should focus on more of what we agree with. Even if you disagree, it's better to focus on agreement. What do you agree with? There must be something that you do agree with, because we have rapport with each other as we find the things that we can agree with. Focus on framing things more positively and focus on sorting more for agreement rather than sorting from polarization like can't, won't, don't, shouldn't, must, and sorting for the opposite of what's said. Because many times over, somebody can have been looking for what doesn't fit rather than what does fit. So let's focus on agreement, because that creates more whole brain patterning with the people that we love. Let's clear away ourself. Let's imagine that you are this other person, and imagine that you are communicating to you. This person who is you is communicating to you. And how would you have this person communicate? Can give some wonderful insight into a way to be that can cause us to be more living in harmony with each other. So I should not necessarily need something to be out here for me to be complete. I should develop more patterns of being more self-sufficient, and coming from self-sufficiency, I need to have a cup that I'm drinking from, and you need to have a cup that you're drinking from. That both of us need to have cups that we're drinking from each, rather than only one person having brought a cup and then both are drinking out of this same cup. So responsibility and being responsible is ever being aware that it's my response to you that is the effect of the communication, what you've said to me. It's my response to you, and it's your response back to me that is the effect of communication. So being responsible is ever being aware that it's my response to your behaviour, my response to the stimulus that counts, not the stimulus. It's my response. As you communicate to me, my response to you is the effect of your communication. I'd like to know that you've communicated well to me. I'd like to be able to repeat this back in a way that, in paraphrasing it, causes you to have the insight, yes, David's got this insight. And so we make support statements of each other when we're able to reiterate what the other has said and to pace this before we add something on to anything else. So I can have been completely living in projection. I can have completely been mind reading. Mind reading is where I go, you rat, 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 you think rat, 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 or you feel rat, 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 rat. Now, that's probably mind reading, because how can I be aware that you're feeling this or you're thinking that? It's possible it's my interpretation. It's possible that it's my interpretation. Could be something else, but it's possible that it's my interpretation. When the other person would say, well, no, I don't feel that way, or no, I don't think that way, I absolutely should correct my view immediately, because it's more than likely that my view was living in projection. And this last pattern, what we call mind reading. And so mind reading is where I have said that somebody feels a certain way or they think a certain way, but they don't. That's mind reading. So lots of mind reading really is going on, actually. Lots of jealousy can occur as a result of making pictures in one's head, and then when I see the person, I've made all these pictures in my head about how things were or something, and that can have influenced my communication in a manner that having a story inside is like a big old speck in my eye, and it causes me to respond to everything around me through having this speck. So when we clear away this speck in our eye, we become more empty, and we have an empty fullness. When I listen, as I feel, as I communicate, as I see, as we connect with each other and I'm more empty of myself, it's more likely that it's possible for me to be more aware of what's going on with you. As I would have been going rat, 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 or dut, 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 and having internal dialogue while you were communicating with me, I only really more or less could have what you said in my second attention. Might not really have it in first attention at all. So let's make sure there's a gap. There needs to be a gap in the cloud bank for the sun to shine through at the top of the mountain to cause things to grow in the valley. And there needs to be this gap in this cloud bank so the sun can shine through If there's not this gap, you know, like you're communicating something, and the moment you finish, I go blah, 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 and I communicate something straight after, and there is no gap, typically that's an indication that there was internal dialogue. If you communicated something to me and straight away I communicated something back to you, then that's the general evidence, possibly, that I was in internal dialogue for some of that moment. So there needs to be a gap. Take some time. Don't rush. Come in nice and easy. Ever be aware that yours and my behaviour can have spilled over to others, and then let's make sure that we're more responsible ourselves. Let's make sure that you're aware that energy and emotion, energy and motion is magnetic. Let's make sure we have our emotions in order. Let's make sure that I clear away all behaviour that was like a drunk monkey stung by a scorpion stuff. Let's make sure we can clear away all the babbling brook of petty emotion and not necessarily enter into any silliness. But of course it is amazing that someone can have a perfectly congruent response from doing something themselves, but when somebody else does it back, it can be the very first time that person has an incongruent response with that behaviour. So we don't have any pattern. We're more way less. We're simply becoming aware of the patterns that we use, and that does not necessarily mean I might not use a pattern. Even though I've said frame things positively, if you went around framing everything positively, there's lots of people you wouldn't have rapport with, because many people frame things negatively. They polarize, they sort for what doesn't fit. And if you frame everything positively, it's possible for your lesson to have rapport with this person. So we teach everyone what these patterns are, and we teach people to be more way less. Not having any way, but simply looking around at the ways of others that's excellent and adopting this. So the more empty one is of themselves, the more likely it is I can become and am a good servant. Because the more I would be having a thought or a concern about something that I needed for myself, how could I be more fully present to serve you? So it's always up to the mature person, you know, to make amends. It's never up to the immature person. It's always up to the mature person. Find other ways to communicate too. Leaving a book on the table. Some is a form of analog sculpting rather than communicating like this. A person could read a title. Sometimes the way that you're holding your face, that's very important. I worked with a couple that brought me in because the wife had had a stroke, and the whole family was really less than able to get along with her, and they brought me in to see if there was something behavioural that I could figure out. And I figured out quite a few things. First of all, the stroke that she'd had left her with not much sort of sequencing ability. She had a stroke more in the left hemisphere, which left her mostly with the right hemisphere. And so there was ways that she could communicate. We could communicate to her, and I noticed that the husband was communicating with the wife, and even though he really selected his words very well, he had a bit of a frown on his face. Now the right hemisphere is perfectly intact and can see the frown, and sort of isn't able quite to sequence things in the same way, and so the communication predominantly the person was getting was the frown. The raising of the voice or the changing of the voice pattern can be something also more read out by the right hemisphere, causing a person to perceive things, even though someone might be selecting their language very well, they could have had a frown, and they could have language things in a way that was less than pleasant. So I taught this person, the husband, to have a more of a smile on his face, to make sure he softened his voice, and that I let him know that the words he used were very excellent, and that if he did these two other things, along with speaking in a little bit of a sing-song, that instantly this would change his wife, and that she would have wonderful ability to be able to sense things more so. And lo and behold, adopting these patterns, he was able to communicate with her, and the whole family learned that there is a way that they could communicate with her. So I've shared with you, shared these few things about analog, which is other than the dialogue, which is the way things are expressed, because one can be very aware of language that they're using, but they might be unaware of the way that things are being expressed. So do what we can to be supportive. The aesthetic is living most amongst us without habit. So be more without habit. Look around and see what you can do to be a good servant, because because I am living most in the midst of you who is serving most. And as you are in relationship with the people around you, that's so very important, that you are loving of yourself, and that everything else is projection, and that I have a focus on what I can do myself, and I keep my focus on what Maya can do. It's up to the mature person to make amends in relationship. It's never up to the immature person. Be more without making demands. Ever be aware that things happen more through grace, and let's focus on having more grace in our life rather than temporal input. So anyway, I hope these few things that I've shared with you today cause you to live life more abundantly. And if this is the case, I say to you, hey, leave good tracks where you're going. I love you. Looking forward to catching up with you in the future. Stay tuned to the Universe Inside Our Mind in the weeks to come. We've really got some great topics. Look forward to catching up with you. God bless. you.